What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Blasphemous Reviews. I'm Jake,
I'm KJ.
and we're just going to be talking about some shit that's been on our mind. So, have fun, sit back, and enjoy.
So I think it's fair to say, blatantly, that being a podcast, our initial job is to always be in a fair mood, upbeat, completely fucking happy all the time. Well, today is not one of those days. I would say that being, I don't know, an everyday normal Joe that works his 9 to 5, that grinds every fucking day, that does everything literally life has told him to do, and he does it 100% without fail, and then still gets shit on, that ends up making somebody a little fucking crazy. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and bitter as fuck.
Right. And with that being said, it happens too often to the common man. You know what I mean? Like, it happens to Jake way too goddamn often. It happened to me way too often, and unfortunately, the world has kept me down. I'm beat the fuck up. I'm not gonna lie. I stay on the goddamn ground because it's beating me up too long.
I'm
How about
exhausted.
you? Yeah. See,
I'm
and like,
exhausted to go in, day out, pretending that everything is okay.
right. I mean, that's a mental fucking breakdown for you. I mean, if you think about it, you're already going to a job. You know, it's not essentially your dream. I don't think it's really hard to capture that dream job. Honestly, I think. And I'm not saying it's not plausible to reach it. It's just difficult, especially when life and
The difficult
circumstances
thing is
always come in the
finding
way.
out what that really is, I think.
It is, and I think that's all a part of growing up. And I don't want to sit here and be a negative fucker the entire time. So I will, for example, give a very good example. There was a guy completely unhappy with his job, completely in his 40s, and just tired of the bullshit, and decided to go follow his dream. Well, his dream was writing very obscure, very adult children's books. You know, where it's like Daddy hits mommy. You know, uh, the rights on children's abuse, and
So
he's like,
not
oh,
children's books, but
well, they're not really children's
they're
books,
like
but
they're
I
like made to feel and look like children's book, but the content is very mature.
yes, and it's
Gotcha.
his name is Brad Goss. Look him up. He's a fucking genius, but he didn't get into his dreams till his late 40s. So I'm not going to say that that point is not there for us at some point. It's just when you get beat down so fucking long, you don't see that end goal. You don't see
Yeah.
that dream. You don't see that reach. And it sucks, man, because like I'm a dreamer. I always will be. I want a podcast. I want a
They
food truck.
say I'm a dreamer.
But I'm not the only one. Goddamn. So, yes, I am a dreamer, and I want the podcast. I want a food truck. I want to learn how to play the bass. I want to live in a van so I can travel the
Down
world.
by
I
the river.
down by the river. But yeah, I just want to do all of that shit, dude. And like, it sucks being beat down constantly every motherfucking day. And like, I don't have what Jake has anymore, like where it's a 40-hour a week job. But I do work, and I work
55
for my
hours. But
right 55 fucking hours. And but I do work. I don't work nearly as much, and I'm my own boss. And I don't get paid. So I like to be that starving artist, if you will. And not everybody can live like that. I'm very lucky in my position. Jake is not, and he's working 55 hours, a week. He's fucking. He's only what are you 28?
28.
28 fucking years old, working 55 hours a week. Now I'm not saying the man
I've
should
been
not
doing
work.
that since I was fucking basically 18 years old.
Right,
I
and,
mean,
and
I was
like
working 40 at 18 and then pretty much by the time I was 20, I was working 55 plus. I've been doing that
Right. So you
ever
haven't
since.
seen any way of like relieving that. And like for example, London, they are very strict about their work laws. There's a guaranteed 2 weeks vacation, and you can only work 39 hours each week. So there's no such thing as overtime. It's only 39 hours a week.
Right.
That's
And
amazing.
I was actually just reading this morning, I think Spain.
Mm-hmm.
It could be Spain or France. I think it's Spain though. They are introducing some legislation to make work weeks only 4 days. You're not allowed to work more than 4 days a week.
That's amazing. See, that's how it should be.
That's how it should be.
See, now let's say America did that, where let's say we got that amazing
Well,
fucking
you're just lazy, then.
right. Either that, it's either that, or like it's blatant. Like, okay, well, we'll make you work 12 4 days, 12-hour 4 days, 10-hour 4 days,
I
something
would
like that.
honestly rather do that.
I would too. I really would too. That 3-day weekend, people need that fucking break, man. People need to see the world besides what they see every single day when they clock into work. And that's a taxing thing on your mind too. When you're literally sitting and doing the same fucking thing, whether it's being in a restaurant, kicking the door on your break, and then going outside and smoking a cigarette on the same square box you sit your ass on every time you smoke a cigarette, or going outside and just stress the fuck out and you smoke a cigarette or hit a joint, whatever you do, you know what I mean? It's just at a point where like people are so exhausted, and like me and Jake were talking, like, what the fuck were we talking about? I can't remember now, but it's just, oh yes, I do. So there is a movie called Elysium. We were just talking about this momentarily, and basically the premise is where the Earth is fucked. Us as human beings fucked it up. So we have poor people living on the Earth, and then now the rich people decided to make some kind of hovering fucking thing above the Earth that can, create its own energy source and all that other shit, and that's only where the rich lived. Well, long story short, and obviously spoilers, the movie at the end, they ended up attacking the place and destroying it. So everybody could basically live as one again. Not really, but just to be fucking, gnarly motherfuckers and get some revenge, which, who wouldn't want that? And I feel that's where we're kind of at now. I feel like the grimy politicians, the people that are in the House, whatever you want to call all those fucking people, again, I'm not politically correct all the time. It's like we're already living in that, but just in, obviously the basic ass world we're in. I feel that our politicians, our people, are sitting there. They're basically getting paid from somebody higher up, whether it be the Illuminati or whatever. They're controlled by something. Okay? And I feel that their sole job is to keep the world fucked up. Or at least keep America fucked up, I should say.
Yeah, it's essentially like being paid to keep things
in chaos.
But always like having that facade of, oh, we're trying to make things better. But like there's so much more you could do. They're doing the bare minimum. And they do the bare minimum on purpose, obviously, but like for two reasons. One is to make people think that they're trying, and also to keep things as economically separated as possible. They want there to be a wealth gap. They don't want everybody to have the same luxuries that they do, because then they won't feel special anymore.
Right, and
that's what it boils down to. It's
right.
ego.
It's an ego contest.
It's an ego thing. It's this idea that your being is the only thing to live for, and therefore you have to do everything in your power to make sure that you are better than the people around you. Because if you're not, then that fucks with your ego and it makes you uncomfortable. It makes you feel like just makes you feel like
Less than.
you're less than.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality it just brings you closer to equal.
I just
And that's not what they want. So
no, not at all. And that's the way like I look at like life, or I try to question it. And obviously, this is just a question, and it's something that I think about. It's crazy that we were born on this earth. And for example, I don't know the fucking math, but look it up if you guys want to. If you think about how astronomically amazing it is that you're on this earth, the chance that you're on this earth. I mean, it's like fucking, what is it, like 1 billion to 1? You're a little sperm racing to the fucking egg, you know what I mean? And there's a billion other fucking eggs. And like, if you think about
how
that,
unlikely is your existence?
exactly. And when I come to that, when I think about that stuff, I think about life. I think about how I'm 30 years old, and I'm really trying to cheat the system. Any way I can, I'm going to cheat the fucking system,
Yeah.
because the system has done me dirty my entire fucking life and my family's life. It's like generational poverty, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, and that's another thing is generational wealth. That's something that people just don't, I don't know, a lot of people don't think about and talk about. And when I say generational wealth, I don't just mean money. Like there's a it's a broader term.
It's a mentality too, I think.
A mentality
Mm-hmm.
thing too. Like
Mm-hmm.
so somebody rich, well off, they have a lot of money. Um their parents had a lot of money, let's just say. Let's start there, right?
Okay.
Well, they come into the world and, life is provided for them. They don't have to worry
Silver
about their
spoon
next
is.
meal.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to go to college, that's paid for. More than likely, their first car was bought for them. Um, a bank account, a college fund, or a future retirement fund is set in place
Already
for them and
established.
established. And then not only that, you have all of that. So when you have all of that, and this is going into just like the nature of being a living being, whether you're an animal or a human, but like when you are comfortable and the normal things that you have to worry about for survival are met, and you don't have to worry about those things, you create new things that impose on your survival, right?
100%.
And so what this does is it creates this mentality in people who are well off, who have that generational wealth. This idea that, well, I'm okay and everything for me is going to be okay.
So nothing around me is in the remote fucking importance. You
Right.
know what I
And
mean? It's like,
it creates a distorted perception of reality where they think that the world is how the world is for them.
now I'm not going to say that for probably all generational wealth or
Not
anybody
all.
that's in wealth. I mean, for example, you see Leo DiCaprio as a man that wants to save this fucking earth. You know, that could, I don't know if that's 100% a prime good example, but like, it's the
I
first one
mean,
that came to mind.
yeah. But
Or that little girl that's from like fucking London or some shit that was in the news for like a year. Do you know what I'm talking about?
yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember who the fuck her name is.
But
But yeah,
it,
go ahead.
it just sorry, I got something in mind. There it is. I got it out.
You just sitting there fucking wiggling your goddamn teeth and shit.
Um, it cre- it creates, yeah, like I said, it creates this distorted perception where their whole their whole idea of the world is built upon what they have experienced, right? And
Right.
they've never experienced the things that um, poorer people or not well off people, and not even financially, but even like family wise. Like family's a big one. Like if you don't have that support there, even if it's not money, but it's family. You know,
even mentally, you know what I mean? It's not
that
like,
is different. Like somebody who grew up with no family and no support, and somebody who grew up with a huge family that they spend time with all the time and
huge support.
has
It's a
huge support.
boost. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, those two people have completely different mentalities on the world,
Yes.
and
God
then
damn yes.
and then you get those people who had all that, had the great big family, and had the money and
But do
everything.
not have that support. Have a difficult life or a struggle bus. Do you see what I'm trying to get at there? It's like there's so what you were basically saying, or the way that I was taking it, is for example, I'm sorry, I drew a blank. Those people, so you can have that family, that big family. Like let's say big family, two different families, right? One loved unconditionally, very positive vibes in the home. You know, not well off, but okay. You know what I'm saying? But they all support each other. Boost that serotonin of a support of a family will change the mentality that you have for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you have a family, same condition, same wealth, whatever, but they fucking are just a negative cesspool to each other. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's going to have a different view on the world
Yeah.
and their mentality. You know, it really depends on how the fuck you were raised. It really does.
Absolutely.
Because I remember me and you growing up, it was like I'm not going to say it's not like we weren't eating. We were definitely always fucking eating. We had food. But sometimes I remember your dad would say, or my dad would say, you know, I'm lucky we got this meal this week, or something like that.
Right.
Or just like be happy that you got a fucking meal, or something,
Yeah.
something along those lines. And it's just like, we lived in that poverty line. We knew that, like, man, sometimes shit's gonna be tight, and it's just, it's a different mentality of life. It really
Yeah.
fucking is. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and so more often than not, those people who had all of that stuff
Mm-hmm.
are the ones who get into positions of influence and power. They're the ones who become politicians. They're the ones who lead churches. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then they start imposing their worldview as if it's fact onto other people, right?
Right.
And like whether they become a politician and they take their worldview, which is distorted as fuck, and they start thinking that they should make laws based upon how they experienced the world, which
Right.
is
And they don't
vastly
see
different
those.
than everybody.
They don't see
And,
those
and
other
they
little
can
fucking
sit here
things.
and they can go, whatever. You get your politician that goes to your black community and gives a speech, and shakes some hands and yada yada, but then he drives away in his fucking limo and goes back to his big old house and forgets that he ever fucking did that in the first place. It's
Right.
a pony show. It's a fake. It's a fucking
Snorting
act.
some booger sugar. It's usually
all
what
an
politicians do. Yeah, it is, and that's the two things that I think about just in general. And this doesn't go really towards the politician side, but it goes towards the life side. It's like if we all lived equally, if we figured out a way where, like, you worked so much a week at every single job, we were all closed and opened at the same literal fucking time, so that means you'd have this or that, whatever. We've just figured out a system. I feel that life would run a hell of a lot more smoother. I really do. Not only that, going back into what I was talking about life and the chance that you are here. This is life, dude. And we're sitting here constantly just working and working and working and working and working. Life was not meant to just work to death. It really fucking wasn't.
Yeah.
And it's hard because it's a mentality thing too. Because if you want this or this or this, you have to fucking work. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or if you want this or this or that. And it's an aggravating thing to think about because it's like, if we just figured out that system that we could run smoothly, everybody, how much greater would the world be? How much greater would crime rates be down? Who the fuck knows?
But people don't want that. Like, a lot of people, I would say the majority of people do. But,
Right.
again, the majority doesn't decide what goes on.
Right.
It's a minority of the people that decides what happens.
To choose for the majority.
And if that minority is able to manipulate enough people
Mm-hmm.
to vote for them to become politicians, or
Wow.
become the
I
head
could
of
think.
the CEOs of
Right.
companies or
I
whatever.
could think of one famous name that's been traveled through for the last fucking 5 years.
Exactly.
One fucking name. But go ahead.
And you know what he did? I'll give it to him. He's smart as fuck. And I don't know if he came up with his brand or not, because that's what it
Mm.
is. It's
It's a brand.
he didn't push himself. He pushed a brand, right? We're
Mm.
talking about Trump, by the way. I hope
Like, if
everyone
you
was
didn't
able
catch
to
that by
pick up
now,
on
then
that by now.
right.
But what he did was he said, "All right, I want to become president. How can I do that? Well, I have to get votes. How am I going to get votes? All right, I can either run as Democrat or I can run as Republican. All right, those are my two options. Which one am I going to choose? Well, if I run for Democrats, um, I could easily manipulate them, but I would have to manipulate them in a way that seems as if I'm trying to push the agendas that the liberal left or whatever has. You know, transgender rights and healthcare for all and environmentalism and stuff like that. And to be honest, that's not super easy to do, right?
Right.
Or I can run as a Republican. And so to get their votes, I would have to manipulate them into thinking that, um, well, let's just look at the Republican base. What is the Republican base? Majority white, majority older, right? What ideologies do those people hold true? Well, they
The same.
believe in the American dream. They were raised up in the 50s, 60s, 70s in this idea that you can achieve the American dream. And how do you achieve the American dream, right? Well, you work hard. You just work, and you don't worry about whether or not your neighbor to your left or your neighbor to your right is doing well. If you're working and you're doing well for yourself, well, that's the American
That's
dream,
all that matters.
right?
Right. And that's all that
So,
matters.
so how can I take that knowledge of how those people view the world and manipulate them into believing that's what I support? Well, you come up with a term called "Make America Great Again." You know what that did? All that did was tell Republicans, or the base he was trying to reach, which he was, is, hey, America's not great right now. But remember what it was like when you were a kid? That was
We can
great,
do
wasn't it?
we can
We
do
should
that
go back
again.
to that. Exactly. So
All
first you
right.
get people hooked in with that. Make America great again. Cool. All right. So now they're like, wow, you know what? You are right. I really miss the old days of being able to be racist and imposing my Christian beliefs on people and not having anybody bat an eye at me. That was really nice. It was very comfortable. The world right now is uncomfortable because there's all these new ideas that I don't like, and you know what? I don't want any of that. I want to go back to the way things were. So I'm going to vote for this guy. Trump knew it from the very get-go, exactly what the fuck he was doing, and he did it well. He did it very well.
He's a salesman.
Yes, absolutely.
You know.
And so what did he do? He came about Make America Great Again. God bless America. When the fuck did Trump ever talk about God before he ran for president? Never. You want to know why?
Yeah.
Because, again, he used it to manipulate people. Period. Flat out, that's all it was.
Do
And
you know
then
he
and
was?
then his during his entire presidency, all it was deflection. Here, um, I'm not doing bad, but here's all these things that you are uncomfortable with, like all the shit that the liberal left media likes to talk about, like I
Mm-hmm.
said earlier, and those ideas are uncomfortable to the majority of the Republican and conservative base. Trans people, what is that? Trans people aren't real people. I don't like that. I don't even want to think about trans people. And the media's pushing trans people on me, so they must be fake news. Because trans people aren't real.
Right.
You know what I mean? And anyway, so here we are. And now you have all those people that voted for Trump who signed up for what he was selling them. And their ideas didn't go back to the way they were.
And Die Hard's still believing in that motherfucker, and he's not even in office.
Because these people are mentally ill. Period. Mentally ill. Their ideology of the way the world works, their ideology of the way humans interact and interface with reality is so fucking distorted that they've been manipulated into believing that this idea of the American dream and all that is still real when it's not. It
Mm-hmm.
never was. Even the idea of the American dream was
It's a fucking pitch.
it
It's
was a
Uncle
pitch.
Sam, dude.
Even back then, that's exactly what it was. How
Mm-hmm.
can we get these people to ignore all the bad shit we're doing and make them feel good as if they have something to work towards?
100%. And
American dream.
it's fucking crazy to think about it, because, like, essentially, if you talk about it, like we were talking about the majority, if you think about it, the majority is probably more content with trying to find a humble way of living life and also taking care of their neighbor. Like you said, the
Yes.
American dream. If you could be that man that comes in every day 9 to 5 and not concern yourself about anybody else, I don't know.
You get a gold star and a badge and a promotion.
Right. It doesn't. It doesn't make any logical sense to me. It doesn't make any logical. Like, this is how I look at it. You drive a car, right? When you're driving that car, you have to worry about the person behind you, in front of you, and on the left and on the right, right? Because you don't want to get into a wreck. Okay, that means you care about your car and the people around you. That's how I look at it.
Right.
So when it comes to your life, it should be the same exact fucking way around. You should worry about your neighbor on your left, your right, in front,
How many
and in
jackasses
back.
do you see on the road these days?
What do you mean? Like, just aggressive fucking drivers?
Who don't give a fuck?
All the time.
Yeah. Well, that's a reflection on the way our reality is too.
It is. It's very much. I mean, there's
more
been
and more people.
there's been road rage where somebody fucking cut somebody off and they just shot him in the fucking head.
Yeah, complete disconnect from reality.
Mm-hmm.
Their ideas are so fucking distorted that they can only see what they have in their brain. And by that I mean, like, their perception of the world is just a product of what they've been told and what they've experienced. I mean, that's how it
Right.
is for everyone, right?
Right.
But,
Well, that's what I was
but the
gonna.
problem
I was,
is, going back to people with that generational wealth,
Mhm.
is that they are a product of their experience and ideas that they've been taught, just like we are. But there's a difference. We, with our experience and our ideas that we've been taught, allows us to develop empathy. Whereas the other way around, people who were given everything from the moment they were born and never had to worry about how to survive, they aren't able to develop empathy the same way that we are. Therefore,
100%.
their
100%.
perception of the world is, you take care of you and yours only. Whereas
Right.
our
And I'll
perception of
take
the
care of
world
mine.
is, let's take care of everyone here,
Everybody.
because that's the way
A
it
pri-
should be, right?
Right, and a prime example of you even saying that, I think about my dad and I think about your dad. I think about it 100 fucking percent, and I don't want to get misty eyed because my dad's gone. His dad's not. His dad's older than the fucking hills, though. But yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up with him, like we've talked about before, and my dad. And I remember anytime it'd be dinner time, and Jake was at my house, or anytime it'd be dinner time, and it was at his house. I
Got you a
remember
plate.
straight, got you a plate, and I'm like, I'm cool. I'm not hungry. No, you're hungry.
You're
Come
hungry.
on.
You're gonna
right.
fucking sit.
You're gonna
eat
sit
dinner.
down. and yeah, I'm gonna get emotional. It doesn't matter, but it's a beautiful thing to see that,
It
because
is.
his dad cared about me, my dad cared about him, and that's a part of, and that's that poverty. I'm not saying neither one of us were, rich, but we weren't poor.
Right.
And it's just that smidget of help or that smidget of having dinner. Regardless you're a kid, it's a beautiful thing because I live my life the way that my dad and his dad lived their life,
Right.
which is giving back to other fucking people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Yep. And that's why like I'll feel bad for a lot of older generations because a lot of
not all of them
them
are like that
no, yeah.
either.
And I feel like even so like my like per se like my dad. My dad's that way, but also like let me put it to you this way. In 2016, if Bernie Sanders won the Democratic nomination, he was going to vote for Bernie Sanders. But he didn't. So guess who he voted for?
Trump.
Trump.
Right.
You know why? Because in that instance, he knew what he felt was right.
Right.
But because he didn't win the nomination, he is just going to go with what he has always gone with, which was just voting Republican because that's the way he was raised.
Right. And
Even though, again, and the whole thing is I'm not saying one is better than the other because they're both crapshoots, but Republicans are really good at manipulating their base into thinking that they have their best interests in mind, but they don't.
Coming into that, I feel this is just like the Bible. And I don't want to get religious. This is not even the point of this episode, but it's the Bible and it's Democrats versus Republicans. It's the same thing. So, for example, the Bible. I watched a movie and it had this wonderful quote in it, and it talked about how the Bible was only meant to put fear and people into church. So that means they could get that collection plate. So that means the church could literally run off of fear.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because people are afraid of death. Genius. Never thought about it until it until it hit me. Now,
People are
Democrat and
afraid of
Republican.
Go ahead.
Go
I'll
ahead.
let you finish first.
Okay. And then Democrat and Republican. That right there. Somebody sat down one day, I don't know any quotes for this shit, but somebody sat down one fucking day and was like, you know what? How can we socially divide this country? Oh, let's make two different sides. This person thinks this way. This person thinks that way. Wonderful. And then let's make something to where we can do this and this, and then we can divide everybody. But let's vote in the fucking greasy monkey motherfuckers that are ruining this. I don't know. That's just me going into aggravation.
It's like if the people are divided, then they are more easily manipulated.
Right.
If there wasn't just two sides, then you'd have to try to control 5 sides, right?
Right. Right.
And that's extremely difficult. But if you put your minds together, you can control 2 sides very easily. I mean, you have Republicans and Democrats, which are just 2 sides of the same coin, right?
Right.
And both of their goals are to not help everyone, but to continue to manipulate their base while the other manipulates their base, but they're both working towards the same goal, and that is to keep people down and to keep people like them up. That's all it is. And they both know it, and they both work together to achieve that goal. It's just that, again, they have people so fucking manipulated that they think these people have their best interests in mind. And both sides.
At the end of the day, essentially, that neither one of them have our interests in mind.
Not at
the
all.
way that the majority of the world thinks, like like we were talking about earlier, me, Jake, and basically the people that live the way that we live, in a sense, basically working hard earned for their every dollar, trying to enjoy life as much as humanly possible when they can. I feel if we were able to run this world, it would be a different fucking tune. But obviously that's not what they want. It will never happen. We will probably never see a change. I mean, I remember when I got...
ever, but I don't know when.
I don't either, because I remember, I don't know how long ago it was, but but I remember all over Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, everything. Everybody was talking about Viva la Revolution. And I remember it was just it was just talk, obviously. But
I
it
mean,
was
it
so
was
it was
real,
so exciting. I know, but it was exciting to see that. It was exciting to see that the world is actually tired of people's bullshit, and that's why I think I also love Black Lives Matter so much. They're tired of police brutality, the way that fucking their race is fucking treated. Period.
but
The
but
end.
but what they do? How here we are. That hasn't happened, and people are just kind of returning to being complacent again, right? That's what I feel
Yeah,
like.
and I
In,
mean,
in,
yeah,
in
but
a way, I
I
mean, there's you still have all your people who feel the same way, but
right.
the talk has died down,
I
right?
would I would say, well, I don't know. This is how I would look at it. And this is just from my perspective. I'm white. I'm a cracker motherfucker. I am Wonder Bread. So for me to try to speak on behalf of the black community, I
That's no,
cannot.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what you were saying before, and in general, the whole movement of like revolution, right?
Okay, okay, I'm sorry. Then I was
Not
taking the
just
other.
Black Lives
I took
Matters,
it
but
right. I took it out of context then. But go ahead.
like the whole, for a while. I mean, it still exists, but I feel
Like you
like
said, it died down.
it died down, right? And that was on purpose. That was orchestrated.
Just like everything.
So how do we do that? All right, people are talking about overthrowing our government. They're talking about getting rid of the two-party system. That's not good. How do we get these people back to being easily manipulated? All right.
Right.
Let's present them with a candidate that tells them that he's going to do the things that they want, right?
Change.
He's
Right.
going to bring about change, right? And then you get them hyped about this candidate, right? And you start introducing identity politics where, you know, you get people to align their ideologies with very specific movements, trans movement, Black Lives Matter, all the different movements. You get these people to identify with the ideologies of that movement, and then
All I'm
you
hearing what you're saying is Biden is just a fucking greasy goddamn salesman just as much as Trump is. That's all I'm
yes,
hearing that you're saying.
except it was the other side again, just like what I said about Trump. All right, I want to run, and I want to get this specific voter base to vote for me. How am I going to do it?
Right. Oh, I like trans people. I support trans people. I support the LGBTQ plus community. I support this and that. Oh, wonderful. Now I have a fucking broad horizon of voters. Boom. And that's how he got in fucking office.
And then
He,
now what?
I mean, oh, I don't know. I don't know
What's
much
gonna
about how.
what's
What do
gonna
you go?
happen?
Go ahead.
We're just gonna get 4 years of absolutely nothing happening.
Right.
That's all we're gonna
Now,
get.
I'm not. Now, don't get me wrong. We have 4 years to find out. I really hope there's some kind of change or a difference that happens within 4 years. More than likely, probably not going to fucking happen. But I am hopeful. I don't want to have us sit here with a negative aspect. We had enough. We had enough the last 4 fucking years. I don't need another 4 years of bullshit. With that being said, Biden's just as greasy as everybody else. I mean, I watched him the other day on, I don't know, MSN or some shit. I don't remember. But I remember he was talking and he was like, I have right here in my pocket the total death number of COVID in the United States. And as it says, up to date today, and it's like, you really have something that literally says in your pocket, up to date today, and then the number. I'm sure he has the number, but it's just the way his cheesy ass fucking did that shit,
It's a
And
fucking show.
it is. What's it my dad used to say? What is it? A dog and pony show? Is that what the fuck it is?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a dog and pony show. So at the end of the day, regardless of whether or not he tells you that he's there for you or he tells you that he wants to help the American people, they're all out for themselves. And, I don't know, man. Like, even politicians and them, they're all fucked because, I don't know, they make more... I don't know. There's so much to it, man. And like one thing that just came to mind that bothers the fuck out of me is how much money they make. It's unnatural. It's unnatural.
Three
Even the
hundred
fucking
thousand or
president.
plus $1,000 a year.
Right. And then even the goddamn president. I believe after your presidency, I think you get like 100,000 for life. Every year for life. 100,000 or 300,000 or something along those fucking lines. And you're probably still protected in some way, shape, or form by the U.S. government.
Right. And
So,
think about this. And again, it's those people. They sure whatever they got their $250,000-$300,000 a year salary. Whatever, right? Well, not only do they have that, but they also have the whole generational wealth thing. They have retirement
they were raised
funds.
in wealth.
They have investments. You know what I mean? So they're actually making way more than $300,000 a year. That's just
Why do you
their
think
salary.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Why do you think economics is not in fucking high school anymore? You know what I'm saying? Why do you think fucking what is it called? Learning your taxes. Fucking what is it called? When people used to fill out their checkbook, or learn about fucking anything. Like, we didn't have the basic resources of learning about fucking stocks and bonds and all this other shit in high school when we were learning this shit that we don't even retain anymore. Do you remember anything back in social studies? Fuck no. You remember science? No. Yeah, you might remember here and there. That's fine. That's just like people that always used to tell you, you're going to use math the rest of your fucking life. The only math I ever fucking use is adding and subtracting. That's pretty fucking basic. That's the only thing. If I was an engineer, it'd be a different fucking story. Right. But I'm not an engineer. That wasn't my goal, to be a fucking engineer. So
that's another thing that is absolutely just completely fucked. Is our education? Is
the educational? Yeah, 100%, 100 fucking percent. We could figure out a way. So why? Why do we not figure out a way to help our generations grow better? Why in the fuck? Because of the government. It's all there is. They want us to fucking fail.
Yeah.
It's their goal. They don't fucking care about us. And it's so aggravating thinking about it now. I mean, yeah, I wasn't this fucking riled up before, but now thinking about our generation and our future generations, all they are fucking pricks and TikTokers.
Well, and here
and they're not teaching them future fucking life lessons at all.
No.
At all.
Well, it's because after decades and decades and decades of believing that this system of capitalism that we are in is the only way to go, then you get people who are stuck, right? And it's to the point where, how do you fix the education system, right? Well, unfortunately, the way it works is
it's probably like
they don't test, right? So the way that they do testing is whack, right? So you do testing based upon very arbitrary information that is more than likely not going to be used later, right? So you have a curriculum, every grade, every class.
And mind you, textbooks aren't fucking updated, and you're reading a goddamn textbook from fucking 1977.
Well, who writes those textbooks, too? Who decides what information goes into those textbooks?
The government. To the T. And that's why, it's like the Board of Educators. It's the same fucking thing. It's like we keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. So it's like, you know what? You try to get some fucking new person, some new young hip person into a fucking education system or into the school board, and they're like, hey, let's change up this educational system. They're going to get voted out a hell of a lot quicker than fucking...
hold on. You mean you actually want to teach these kids?
Right.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
What we've been doing has been working for years.
The whole thing is the whole education system is built upon pumping out cogs for the capitalism machine. That's all it is how can I produce, and again, the education system doesn't view kids as human beings. They view them as assets to society. How can I pump out or produce this kid, this product, to fit a certain mold within society to continue the capitalism wheel, right?
Right.
Well,
It's like you're. Oh,
you're just pumping out,
mm-hmm.
you know, robots that, and the whole idea is to just force them into something that they may or may not even enjoy or want to do, but you force them into that so that way they can contribute to society.
That's literally what I was about to fucking say. And before I go into even any more, just know I'm pretty sure Jake is on the same board with me. I'm not talking about teachers.
No,
I'm not talking about
I
teachers.
even me, I had plenty of incredible teachers, but a teacher can
There's
only
probably
do
piece
so
of shit
much
ones,
when they have
right?
to keep their job. You know what I mean?
Right, and they gotta follow what their boss is telling them to
The
do.
curriculum that is handed down to them, essentially. Yeah.
And I don't know, man. It's just it's a breakdown. It's a mental breakdown too. It's like, okay, if somebody can't handle the unruly kid in fucking high school, it's either they kick them out or they don't help them at all. So that means what's that gonna do? They're gonna go be a fucking machinist somewhere. And I'm not knocking machinists at all. Jake's dad Steve was a fucking machinist basically his entire life. Worked at a machine company. Well, no, that man had versatile jobs. He was like a taxi driver too. But that's
Yeah.
besides the point.
Yeah.
Anyways. And I was a machinist for a
I
little
want to
bit.
get my
Jake was a
pops
machinist.
on here and just talk
Just,
about shit, dude. That would be.
just rambling on. That'd be good, dude. I think he'd have a lot to say. I'd enjoy the fuck out of that.
Yeah.
But with that being said, like, I don't knock any job that keeps America's backbone running. It's just like truck drivers. You wouldn't get the Nintendo Switch or the fucking iPhone 48 or, the DVD you wanted to pick up at Walmart if we didn't have truck drivers. Or the food that you fucking eat.
But why don't we invest in better modes of
Transportation? I don't know. I don't know. It's probably the same thing with the
jobs,
government. It all,
of course.
right. It all comes back.
What
around
about
to
the truckers' jobs? I mean, if we build railroads, then what are all the truckers gonna do?
You know what? You just gave me a prime example. It's like when they were talking about
Fuck
changing
the
out the
truckers.
roads.
Let's make. I don't care. Find a new job. Guess what?
Right,
There's millions of jobs out there.
Well, if anything,
You have to be a truck driver? No.
Well,
Why don't
hold
we-
on. If anything, rebuttal that a little bit because I'm with you. I agree with you. Find a different job, but this is how I would look at it. If we're trying to sit there, do the railroad system like you're talking about, there's a prime example of that. If you were a truck driver, wonderful. You're guaranteed hired to be a fucking railroadman. If
Exactly,
you want to do
right.
that kind of job,
Right.
you're more than welcome.
That's exactly how I feel about our energy shit too. People are like, well, what about the coal miners' jobs? What about the people who work at them oil fields? What about their jobs? It's like, why don't we give them jobs in renewable energy? Like,
Train them.
why don't we train them, which will be at very little cost overall in the long run.
They're already in the common sense of that fucking.
They already work in the field. They work in the energy industry, right?
Right.
Why don't we train them to do the other job? So that way we can get past this dumb shit and build a better future. Well, fucking jobs. And that's where there's things on both sides, but I'm going to say Republicans. That's where Republicans manipulate their base. They're like, well, I know that a lot of people who vote Republican work in the coal mines or in the oil industry, right? Well, I can't say anything that opposes their work, their field, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna be like, well, I support oil and coal. Vote for me. That's exactly what it is, dude.
Right.
It was just,
And then when there's people like, now here's the other thing, and this is where life is very hard, and we have to figure out how to change this system. But you will have people like me and Jake, or for example, a prime example, Bernie Sanders. you will have them
But Bernie
try.
Sanders is a communist.
You will have them try so fucking hard, get to that point, get to that tip. It's like he's fucking. You know what I'm saying? It's like he's fucking. The cusp is in. You know what I mean? He only the cusp has gotten in, but after that, it gets pulled right the fuck back out. And the reason I'm saying it like that is because Bernie Sanders was so goddamn close to being president.
He's the realest politician I've ever seen. He's the only one who would get up there and just say what's on his mind.
Exactly what the fuck, right.
And not just to say what's on his, because that's what people say Trump will do, but Trump was also doing that specifically to manipulate. Like,
right. Dude,
whereas
every time,
with Bernie Sanders, he's getting up there to be genuine because he cares. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And
he's always cared. He's been that dude since the fucking 60s, dog. Like,
right. It's just like,
and he's written way more, been written on way more bills that have passed than any other politician. Like, Joe Biden, how many bills has he written? Not many.
I don't know.
Look how many. Look it up. Look how many bills Bernie Sanders wrote in his career.
Oh, I can imagine.
A lot.
Like you said, he's been going since like the 60s or 70s.
Help people.
Right. Because I don't know. And going back into that, it shows that like even when somebody like Bernie Sanders runs for fucking presidency, is that close, literally almost in, and then boom. It's like that good person. It's just like the evil, the Illuminati, I don't know, the dark side, the dark order, whatever the fuck you want to call it of this world. I think
he was unknowingly used. I think he believed in his own ideas so much that he ran for president and stuff. And I think that he had secret backing that he may or may not have been aware of. Because both times, 2016 and 2020, both times were a bait and switch. Right? I mean, he single-handedly got people in our generations to give a fuck about politics, right? Single-handedly did it, right? But each time, the nomination was ripped right under him. And then what? Well, we're stuck. Now we give a fuck about politics, but the person we wanted to vote for isn't running anymore. So what do? We vote for his replacement because it's the closest thing. I honestly think he was used as a bait and switch. Let's get younger generations all up in arms to get them riled up to vote, and then switch the candidate on them last minute.
Sweep them right under the fucking legs.
Yep.
It's a crazy thing, man. And I don't even, like, we could probably sit here and go on with examples for day on and day on. It's just, it's the world that we live in. And that's why I think, essentially, I'm not going to say the world's always going to be fucked. There's going to be a change at some point. It probably won't be in my lifetime. It might be. I don't know.
It might be. I don't think anything's going to get... There is no putting Band-Aids on anymore.
I just don't want nobody to... I don't want nobody to lose hope. I don't want you to sit there and think that some kind of change can't come, because it can. It really just depends on our younger generation. If you want to fight for what you truly believe in, what you truly give a fuck about. I'm too old now. All I can do is preach and yell and scream.
Well,
that's all I can really fucking do.
So I work at my job. I have probably like 7 to 10 people, all under the age of 21, that from my job that work there. The majority of them don't give a fuck about our system, our capitalist system. They don't want a part of it. They don't like it. But they feel they can't do anything about it, so they're just living their life.
See, and I don't want to... Now, here's the thing. When you say that, I don't want to shit on them ones that are under 21 that say that. Because for the longest fucking time, I was that same 21-year-old. I was that same person not giving a fuck. it took a very long time for me to start giving a fuck. I think I started.
Well,
I think it was like I was 24 years old is the first time I voted, or I don't remember, something along those lines. But I remember at that point I felt important. I felt my vote mattered. I felt that I did something right because I want to fucking change.
yeah.
I just
Here's the difference I think between that generation, which is essentially just the generation below our generation,
right.
is that we we have the same ideas where we want to make the world better. But a
Hmm.
lot of people in our generation still think that we can do that with our current system. The younger generation,
Unfortunately, yes, we do.
from what I've seen, from what I've gathered,
Your experience.
the majority of them are like, our system's totally fucked. There's not anything we can do about it. And the only way we can actually make any progress is by completely dismantling it. And I'm reaching that point where I agree. I don't think,
Uh,
again, I don't think we could just keep throwing band-aids on this shit and
right,
think that it'll fix it. It's like, it's like having, it's like having a broken arm and then putting a band-aid on it. Like that's not gonna
right.
fix. You know what I mean? That's not gonna fix your broken arm.
All right. You
You
need a
can bandage.
cast.
You can bandage it up, and sure, it might make you feel better temporarily, but it's not gonna fix your broken arm. And that's how our system is. Honestly, I really honestly think we've It's like, all right. It's like,
It's where
imagine
you.
you're making a cocktail, all right?
Mhm.
And you're mixing your shit in and you accidentally add a little bit too much of this. Well, to counter that, you got to add a little bit of something else, right?
Mhm.
And but you're never going to have the correct cocktail again because
Right.
you have to keep just adding this and that to like try to balance everything out.
Right.
And it's like a never-ending fucked up cocktail where like you can keep trying to add this or that to make it
At
the
some
way
point,
it
you're just
should
gonna have a
be.
very. You're gonna have a big ass Gatorade of cocktail, more or less.
That's just a clusterfuck of things that it doesn't work, right? So what
Mhm.
do? Do you keep adding shit to it, hopefully trying to fix it, or
Generally,
do
you
you, do
just
you make
toss
a new
it.
one
Right. You toss it and make a new one, and that's the thing. I
and
think
do
that's
it
where.
right the next time?
Right. Right. And I think that comes back into play with what you were saying earlier. Well, now I'm drawing a blank. But nonetheless, I just I just want to make the point clear that this system that we have been using for, I don't know,
A
my
few hundred
math and
years.
history, a few hundred fucking years is incorrect. Now I know where I was coming with this. Okay. And we need new ideas. We need a new system. And I feel that if we get this generation, and I'm not talking about the ones that you were just talking about, but the same generation of those kids, the ones that are fired up about change, if we start getting those kids in office at some point, some way, somehow, at one of age, obviously, that is when we will have our change. It is almost to the point. And unfortunately, it's either we're going to wean out all those people that are thinking the way that the old school heads think, or we're not. But I feel that we have a majority of this world that wants change. And it's up to our generation behind us to fucking change it.
We have to pave the path though, and
We're trying.
I
We just
honestly
don't.
think we've been doing a decent job. But
Yeah.
but the way I've started to realize things is that it's like I said, paving a path. It's like building a road, okay? And so you start out with just a rough patch of dirt, nothing on it, right? And you get one group to come by and they dig it up and they,
Get it flat.
decide the path, right?
Right. Okay. Right.
Which was, I think, the generations of the 70s and 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
The younger generations of those. A lot of them, not, less than there are now, but like I was saying in an earlier podcast where I was talking about more and more people are coming around to these ideas. Well, I think yeah, older some of the older generation, a small portion of them, decided the path, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then another generation came by in the 90s and was like, all right, well, we're gonna level this out. Now it's leveled. You know, the path has been decided. The path has been cleared and leveled. And then we come along. It's our generation now, and we're like, all right, cool. Well, we're gonna
Let's
start. We're gonna start.
paving.
We're gonna start paving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're paving away, right? And then the younger generations, the ones coming up now, are going to be the ones, hopefully, I think, are going to be the ones to be like, all right, now we're finishing the road. We're going to paint the lines on there. We're going to smooth the blacktop over or whatever, you know. And so I've started to realize that, like, when I was younger, I thought, yeah, our generation's going to be the one, right?
I did
And
too.
then now I'm like, no, it's not us. It's behind us. And it may not be
Right.
the one directly behind us,
It might be the one before.
one
Right.
after that. But
Mm-hmm.
as long as we do our part to pave the
And they
path,
do their part, and then
yeah,
they do their part.
again, exactly. Yep. We
Mm-hmm.
will eventually have a beautiful road. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
100%.
and I'm glad I'm starting to look at that now, because
Mm-hmm.
now I'm starting to look at it as a way that I can influence positively on some of those younger
100%.
generations.
And I think 100%. I mean, it just that was probably the best way of fucking putting that. And I think we're gonna leave it at that because we could probably talk a hell of a lot longer. But that was damn good enough
Yeah, we
explanation, I'd
covered
say, for
two of
everybody.
the five topics I wanted to talk about.
Oh, really?
But
So we can, but next week we'll hold on to those. Uh, but yeah, just if you take anything out of this, fight for your people, fight for your neighbor, love each other, and take care of yourself. And remember that life shouldn't be taken seriously all the fucking time. Do your best and just take care of each other. Simple as that. And fuck the government.
and
That's
yeah,
about
just don't let be consciously aware of the fact that there are powers out there that want to manipulate you into believing certain things.
100%.
But at the end of the day, all you really need to believe is that we as humans are a beautiful species and that we have the potential to live in harmony as long as we keep putting in the work to pave that path. As long as we do what's right for everyone. And I mean everyone, not just the people that you see in your immediate surroundings, but literally all people everywhere, then we will be okay. It just might take a while.
100%. I mean, yeah, well-rounded. This was a well-rounded fucking podcast. Or this episode, because I will say, you know, Jake came in bitter as fuck. I was cool, but he just had a lot of shit on his mind, and we decided to rip off the cuff today, and I think it was one hell of a episode to do that with. But going on to that, fun fact of the day to let you guys know for a little light heart, owls have 3 eyelids. You're welcome. Completely fucked up, but you're welcome. Owls have 3 fucking eyelids.
That's wild.
That is wild. But until next week, guys, we appreciate you. I promise you we'll be a little bit more lighthearted next week. We love you. Nothing wrong with venting, right? So look us up on our shit. I can't even say it. That's your line. You go ahead.
Check us out on YouTube. We have our videos of all of our podcasts posted on there. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of those places. Hit us up on Instagram and Facebook, and TikTok.
We got a
And
TikTok now.
and communicate and say what's up.
We're
And
trying to post more. We've
yeah,
been a
yeah,
little lazy. We're trying to post more. As you can see, I threw out some comic stuff. Jake threw out that fucking Valheim stuff. So we're definitely trying, man. It's just life gets ahead of us. We're
yeah,
trying to make a schedule and make this better for you guys and more content. It's just life. And that's probably why we had this podcast today, and we had to get a little off our heart and our chest. So we will see you next week. We appreciate you. We love you. Like we said, all social media sites hit us up. Take care, guys.
bye.
Later.